Today we'll discuss in perception in organizational behavior the perceptual process. Perception is a process consisting of several sub-processes. They are input, throughput and output. The stimulant in the environment, say the object, event or the people, they can be considered as the inputs. The actual transformation of these inputs through the perceptual mechanism of selection, organization and interpretation can be treated as throughput, and the resultant opinions, feelings, attitude can be considered as the output. So this process has been discussed as input, the stimulants, then the throughput we have selection, organization and interpretation. The output is the action. First one is perceptual input. Perceptual inputs in the form of stimuli are not part of actual perceptual process, though these are necessary for the occurrence of perception. Stimuli may be in the form of object, event or people. Thus everything in the settings event occurs or which contributes to the occurrence of the events, it can be termed as the perceptual inputs. The character of the stimuli are important as they affect the extent to which the perceiver is attracted to these, which affects the selection of the stimuli for the perception along with other variables affecting the selection of stimuli, like perceiver's character, situational variables. When the perceiver interacts with the stimulus, sensation takes place, and this sensation is the basic information which we receive through the sensory organizations. The sensory organs, namely the mouth, hand, eyes, nose and ears. These are the 5 organs through which we receive the senses, like vision perception, touch perception, sound perception, taste perception and smell perception. Next is perceptual mechanism. In that we have 3 major components. One is selection of stimuli, organization of stimuli and the interpretation of stimuli. Okay, first one is selection of the stimuli. Selection of the stimuli is based on 2 major factors, right? They are the internal factors and external factors. The external factors in perceptual selectivity are size, intensity, perception, novelty and familiarity, contrast and motion. The external factors in perceptual selectivity are self-concept, belief, expectations, inner needs, response dispositions, response salience and perceptual defense. So based on all these factors, that is the internal and external factors, the stimuli which we receive through the sensory organs are selected. Okay. The selected stimuli next is organized. Next is organization of stimuli. After stimuli are received, these are organized in the form in order to make sense out of that. The various forms of organizing stimuli are figure ground, grouping, simplification and closure. Okay. Last one is interpretation of stimuli. The perceptual inputs that have been organized will have to be interpreted by the perceiver so that he can sense or extract some meaning of what is going on in the situation. The people interpret the meaning of what they have selectively perceived and organized in terms of their own assumptions of people's things and situations. They also become judgmental as well as tend to interpret things as good or bad, beautiful or ugly, and so on, which are quite relative terms. In such process, there are chances of misinterpretations too. Okay. The last step in the perceptual process is perceptual outputs. Based on the perceptual mechanism, which tend to interpret the stimuli, perceptual outputs emerge. The perceptual outputs may be in the form of covert actions like development of attitudes, opinions, beliefs, impressions about the stimuli under considerations. These outputs, along with other factors affecting human behavior, may result in overt behavior. For overt behavior to occur, perception is not the sole decider, though it is important. Okay, so until this we have the perceptual process. Next one is perceptual selectivity. In perceptual selectivity, we have seen that a few major factors will influence the selection process. So under that, we have the 6 major factors which affect the external factors which affect the perceptual selectivity. First one is size, next is intensity, third is repetition, fourth is novelty and familiarity, fifth one contrast, and sixth is motion. First is size. Size is the character which may affect the perceptual selectivity by affecting the attraction of the perceiver. The bigger the size of the perceived stimulus, higher is the probability that it attracts the attention of the perceiver and he may select it for perception. Next is intensity. The intensity principle of attention states that the more intense the external stimulus, a loud sound, a strong odor, or a bright light is noticed more as compared to soft sound, weak odor, or dim light. Third one is repetition. Repetition increases people's sensitivity or alertness to the stimulus. Advertisers use this principle by repeated advertisements of the same product to attract the people's attention. Novelty and familiarity. It is the principle states that either a novel or a familiar external situation serves as an attention getter. New objects or events in a familiar settings or familiar objects or even events in the new settings draws better attention. Next is contrast. Contrast principle states that external stimuli which stands against the background or which are not what people are expecting receives more attention. Letters of bold type, persons dressed differently than others, etc. are contrast. Next is motion. Motion principle states that a moving object draws more attention as compared to a stationary object. Advertisers use this principle in their advertising by designing signs which incorporate moving parts. Commercials on televisions get more attention than print media. These are the major external factors in perceptual selectivity.